Hey, what is up everyone? Coach Danny along with Alex. In today's video, we're going to start teaching you guys the basic punching techniques in boxing. All right, so today I want to talk about the straight punches. All right, we're going to talk about the straight right hand as well as the straight left hand, that jab as well, show you a few variations, and that you can incorporate into your training sessions immediately. So check it out. All right, before we get into the punches, punching mechanics to develop tremendous power. All right, so how do you do that? So imagine that I gave you a ball in your hands and you had to throw that ball, and all you did is catch the ball and just whip it out from your hand like this, from your wrist, your fingers, or even from just your elbow like this, all right? Just extending from here. That ball won't go far. So what you want to do is actually, like, imagine you're a pitcher, right? You see when you're pitching, that ball is in your hand, you're actually going to load it up and then throw that ball at full extension of using your whole body into it. That's as far as it can go. So the same thing is the ideology of transferring that body weight into your punch, going to be the same thing. Of course, now I'm not going to be winding up my punch. That's going to be telegraphing. But I want to keep that idea that when I throw something, I want to throw it with the velocity and that continuous flow of power from my body, that body weight from the lower body up into my shoulders, into the target, which is the punch that's going to hit the chin, for example. Now, think of it as a whip. If I had a whip, the handle of my whip is going to be very thick, and every little link of my whip, whether if it's 5 or 10 feet, is going to get thinner and smaller. By the end of the whip, it's very narrow. It's like a small, thin strip of leather. All right. In order for me to get that power, my wrist, my hand is going to flick the larger portion of the wrist, but by the time it gets to the end portion, the very narrow, thin part, it needs a lot of continuous flow, a lot of whip. In other words, a lot of motion, a lot of power and velocity. All right. So in order to do that, I have to have a lot of velocity at the starting point from the base of the whip in order for that speed to continue fast and as quickly as possible until it hits the end point. So the same thing, imagine that the base point of your whip, if you will, is going to be your legs driving all up into your core, into that shoulder. Now it gets smaller, more narrow, into your wrist and your punch, of course, and that's where it's going to hit the target. So in other words, think of it like this. If you had good generation of power with your legs, but you stop at a dead point, it's like, and you stop here and then you whip everything out, that generation of force just stopped before you hit the target, right? Just like the whip, if you went whoop, and then you took the end part and just snapped it out. So you want to think the same thing. You want to maintain that continuous flow. So a great exercise to practice this is just practice rotating your body as such, always rotating, just like this, right? So if you're going to throw a cross, for example, that straight right hand is going to come from that right side of your body. So you would start that whipping effect from the foot into your leg, the hip, that rotates your hip into the shoulder. And then that's going to be the extension. Right here, all of the lower body comes into the upper body, and that transferred from A, B, C. Okay, so from here, boom, it can't stop. It can't go 1, 2, 3. It has to be all one continuous flow together, right? It has to work in unison. So it needs a lot of practice to do so. A lot of times when beginners come into the gym, they'll throw a right hand and it's just the right hand. So basically it's just like a jab placed behind the reality of a good punch, right? So what we want to do is always understand how we generate power, right? I talked a lot about this subject in past videos. You guys can check that out. But anyways, just the basics of that generation of the power. Now, if we look at this, when we throw the punches, mainly, I'll usually start by teaching the jab before the cross or the straight right hand. Today, I want to talk about the right hand. So I want you guys to practice here. Let's say Alex gets into a stance. Practice shooting the right hand nice and slow first. So he generates the power from his leg into the shoulder, back into his straight right hand. Look, from here. All right, do a few reps towards the camera and here. And now sideways. Notice how he turns the body. Boom. So when he extends his punch, he's almost, his upper body, his chest is facing you guys now. See how he turns into it. And in the opposite direction, in this direction here, same thing. Now you'll be able to see the rotation of his leg into the shoulder, right? So everything has to generate together, continuous flow. And that's what generates the power. Now, from here, if we look at the target of this is where I'd be facing Alex like this. And my cross has to be in a straight line. It can't be like this where I'm going like curve and coming downwards, right? I want to shoot through. So in reality, look, I'm just going to use my hand behind his head and my cross would shoot here. Boom. See, this is the target. So the target as per se would be the chin, and that chin is just placed in the way of the trajectory of that power. Okay, so look, in slow motion here, boom, and that would push the whole target away. That's where you generate all that force, okay? But for practice now, we're just gonna stay a little bit out, and we're just gonna practice where we're aiming at, see? We're just from here, boom, see? Right to the chin. And it's important to do these drills because a lot of times when we do shadow boxing, we just throw the cross. Yeah, we're maintaining good positions, good techniques, we're really enhancing our form, but we're not really seeing where we would be hitting in reality, right? And then the first time you're gonna be fighting or sparring, you just throw a cross, but what are you hitting really? So you gotta know that the two first knuckles need to connect at the exact target. Hitting someone here, or here, or here will make a huge difference. Those three different spots, here, I stun him and I might injure my own hand. Here, I might break his nose, but this guy's still coming at me. Now here, which is only 2-3 inches below, I'm knocking this guy out. See, that's a huge difference. But if you don't know this, you might just throw a right hand blindly and break your own hand, right? So now we're gonna practice this just like this. Look, boom, he does one right in between the punches. See where his guard is? Right between the guard. So if I go sideways here, you'll see where his cross comes in. Between the gloves, between my hands. Whether if it's bare knuckle or boxing gloves, look straight right in the center, right here, all right? You don't want to go in the curving motion or up like this, always in a straight line, right here. Boom, that way there, the cross will land onto the target. Now, building up on this, we talked about the straight right hand. We can also do a straight left hand. Now, let's not confuse this with a jab, okay? So the straight left hand, of course, if you were a southpaw, would come from here. So it generates a lot of power because now it's the same mechanics from the rear side. But what if you're an orthodox fighter? You're right-handed, you're here. Now, if you threw a straight left hand, this is not a straight left hand. This is just a jab. So in order to develop that power with the shoulder, like we just talked about, you need to torque it. So what we're going to do now is practice turning into it. Imagine you're covering against somebody's punch, you're covering yourself here, and then you're rotating your shoulder back into position and shooting that punch right out. See, from the side here, as I pretend I'm covering here, boom, I blocked one shot. But look what this did. It just turned my body into the exact position if I was a southpaw fighter and throwing that cross from the rear side. Now, if I switch my feet here, now if I throw it here, that's the jab. But look, if I turn here, I've just rotated my shoulders to generate the force here and boom, shoot it right back. See? So maybe Alex threw a jab, I covered here, boom, and then I throw back my straight left. Okay, once again, look, boom, cover here, and boom. This puts me right back into position. So a good drill is to practice your straight right, followed by your straight left. Now look, if I turn here, I have to return back to position anyhow. So I might as well shoot a punch. See, I go, boom, boom, right away. Okay, so if Alex practices this, straight right and straight left. 1, 2. 1, 2. So basically it would be a 2-1, right? So right, left, okay? One more, right, left, all right? So when we rotate on our right hand, we have to return back to bring our foot into position. So as we pull the right hand back, our left will shoot out. So that's a straight left in reality, right? We just call this a jab mainly, but this is a good way to, if we want to get traditional about it, this is a good way to develop some forces. This is what we call the straight left, okay? So if we practice this now, once again, with a partner, we do the same thing. So we just pretend something came in and we cover here and then boom. Sometimes we like just catch it with our hands. So that way there, you're protecting. Sometimes he's not shooting anything. So you just feint him here, boom, bath, bring it back. See, it looks like I was shooting my right hand. Slow motion, look, 1. So it's the same motion if I did this. But as I shoot this, look, it comes forward. And now as this moves, boom, he might react to this and boom, this one will land afterwards, right? This is a good drill to practice. Give it a try. Okay, these punches can be done at different levels. Now we talked about the headshots, but of course, if you want to do it to the stomach, you can do that as well, right? So I'm going to crouch down here, and boom, that's my straight right. Now I might crouch down here and then shoot this one here instead, right? These drills you're going to do at the height of the head, also at the height of the body. Now, let's cover that jab, okay? We talked about the straight left. Now the jab, you're not going to turn your shoulder because that would be telegraphing. Now, if you're going to shoot a power punch, you want to make a reaction, that's good. But sometimes you just want to flick a jab out. Why is that? Because maybe you want to gauge distance. Maybe you want to get a reaction. all right? Maybe you want to create a punch to land the second one, which would be your right hand. A lot of times speed will precede power, right? We say that a lot in boxing. So your speed would be the left hand and your power would be the right hand, right? That's the power generation we just talked about. So the speed would be here. Now I'm not moving my shoulder, we're just boxing here, and whoop, that jab will just come out. So this one doesn't have as much power. It's not like a strong punch, but it's a flicking punch that generates a lot of speed, just like we talked about the whip. Okay, so if you do it fast enough, that compensates and creates more generation of power. So if I just use it on his hand here like this, if I go here, look, boom, right away it's fast. See here, boom, right away it's fast. So we're moving and we're boxing, and I might even use this with the half step we talked about. So if I'm a little bit out of range now and I know this, look, bam, that half step just landed to the target. A few inches with a step with my lead foot brings that few inches exactly to the target. And that's very important because a lot of people know how to do punches. They train on the heavy bag, but the heavy bag won't teach you distance. All right, and then they get into a real fight, whether it's a self-defense or a real street fight, and they're gonna hit a punch, but they're gonna land air, right? We wanna land on the target, and sometimes you might land on the target, but just touching maybe the beard or the end of his chin. You wanna punch through the chin, right? So if you understand distance now, you can play with this. A lot of times people will be here and they just punch here, and I've seen even street fights where people will punch and they don't punch nothing, right? And then if you understand this, now for a half step, see, you just land on the target here, right away. That touches the target, and boom, that's your power punch that will follow through. So I said, speed precedes the power shot, right? And that speed will cause a reaction. Most people, the untrained individual, they're gonna flinch, they're gonna close their eyes, right? Or they're gonna lift their hands up, look away from it. A lot of times when people are not used to seeing something come to their head or their face, they look away, and that causes a reaction for that straight right hand, which is the power of the knockout blow. Okay, now lastly, we're gonna talk about more variations of the jab, okay? So the jab, there's 3 variations we're gonna cover today. The first one is the one we just talked about, straight in the middle, right? Just here, boom. We're just boxing, boom, right? Boxing here, straight jab. We can also change the level and show that to the stomach, right? Create the hands to come down. Now the second variation will be me tilting to the side. So maybe I slip to the side here, look like this, and then boom, shoot the jab out, you know? Sometimes he might jab me, and that's when I move out, but look, boom. Even though I move my head, that doesn't mean that the distance of the range of my jab changes. Look, if I stood here and my jab is right here at the full extension of it, and this is where it touches, watch where my hand goes. If I start to lean to the side here, that does not change the distance for my jab, all right? So we can use this once we understand those little principles to counter off an opponent's punch. All right, so I know that this is the distance to touch my opponent. But if I'm not careful and he throws a punch at the same time as I do, boom, I might get caught as well. So look, when he throws his punch, all I do is tilt to the side, and that's where I connect my jab, right? So I'm just gonna touch here his upper chest to show you guys. So throw a jab, Alex, boom, right here, see? That would be the connection, okay? And a lot of times we've trained this, we'll just touch right here, not too hard, but just on the chest. Why? Because this is actually it's actually deeper than his chin. Right? There's a few inches here. So if I'm training myself to touch here, that means if I go just a little bit higher, this pushes his chin down, and that creates a knockout, right? So that's the second angle here. When he throws the jab, I just move to the side, and that's where I connect here. Now, the third variation of that jab will be leaning to the opposite side. So check it out. If he throws the jab, or maybe he doesn't even react, okay? First, what we can do is just lean to the side. So I'm gonna take a step here, just so we talked about in the footwork, right here with my lead foot. I'm sidestepping. What I want to do is this, what we practiced in the previous videos, okay? But I'm going to use this to my advantage now to score a punch. So I'm going to start my step with my lead leg. As I move here now, watch my back foot. It's going to come back here and boom. See, so a lot of times when I'm moving in front of the camera, if you guys are seeing this, you're seeing this. And you're wondering, why is he moving if I haven't attacked yet? But as you see this, boom, that's when the punch comes in on an angle. So this is a great tactic. It's very simple. I just move my head to this side, poof, that's the jab. It's already in, right? So if he threw the jab, maybe I moved out, boom. And look, when I square my feet up and I get my shoulders back to align, it faces him, right? I'm ready to attack. Any punch I want to throw, even if it's the power side, it's aligned. That's very important to understand. So once again, the 3 variations. The first one, that's the basic one right here, the jab. Second one, I lean to this side and I punch him here. And the third one, I'll lean to this side and boom, catch him right there. See, these jabbing variations are great tools. There's many more. These are basic ones. Guys wanted to keep it short for this tutorial. These are straight punches only, but there's a lot of tactics you have to make sure you understand and study if you want to be really good in boxing. All right, guys, there you have it. Boxing tutorial, boxing 101 for you guys, straight punches. Hope you guys enjoyed this content. Leave us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't so already, and we will see you
in the next video.
Take care.